last session, I think it's always tough to stand up to that kind of energy level, but I think we'll give it a shot. So we heard about what is networking, how to use networking, what is perception, how to change that to reality. I think that's what the next session is going to be about. We talk about moving from the networking to net worth, and from perception to reality, which is the money or the valuation or the numbers, right? So please welcome in joining Mr. Mahek Bikamse. He's one of the most experts in the field of valuation, practicing chartered accountant, 22 years, probably has penned the fate of 1,000 companies in valuing them in M&A, in primary, secondary. What else? I think let's hear from him. Please, Mahek, please join on stage. Are you going to be there or?
So do you want me to be here or up? Okay, thank you.
So I guess
thank you. Yeah, you can just.
So, Mahek, thanks again for making this trip and addressing us. We all know there is a lot of hype and stress and passion about valuation, right? Which almost every startup is sort of judged based on that kind of a number. And depending on which side you are on, you think, it is high or low. It depends on which side you are on. And you look at the flurry of IPOs there, that's again a lot more commotion in about valuation. So I think it will be really appreciative before you go into your formal presentation, right? If you can talk about what do you consider to be a startup, what do you think of the ecosystem, especially in Kerala, right? How do you look at Kerala's startup ecosystem, and then,
just before I start answering Mr. Kamat's question, I would just say that this terminology, getting valuation right, is itself, a very difficult topic to be in, because there is nothing right or wrong in our life, and everything is right and everything can be wrong. So still I continued with the terminology, getting valuation right, because I thought that let me give you some different perspectives on this whole getting valuation right. Now, coming to startup valuation, startup ecosystem and startups in India. See, 2014, where really the startup was defined in India. And there are several definitions of startups. Now, after reading all those definitions of startup, okay, we found that there are 4 key parameters of any startup. First is growth, second is cash burn, third is innovation, and fourth one is basically uncertainty. So these are the 4 attributes of any startup. So with the startup being, if you want to define any company as a startup, it is more important that you see these 4 elements in the startup, rather than saying that, okay, this is this company was incorporated yesterday with the 10 employees and now in future it is going to grow. That is not a startup. You can have Flipkart also as a startup, and the XYZ and company starting from yesterday also can be a startup if these 3-4 attributes are there. Having said that, as I said, that 2014 was a remarkable year, and what we have seen, I have certain numbers to speak in a way. And to be very frank, India is one of the biggest hotspots in the startup. US, China, and now India. So if I look at startup as a overall, there has been $70 billion funding has happened in startup since 2014 to 2020. And in 2023 itself, today, as on today, means you can say it's up to September or October, the overall funding that happened was around 23 billion in this year itself.
Only.
Yes, only. And some numbers are like, I could have remembered those numbers, but I just didn't want to throw up some numbers. So I just jotted down. Total startups in India are 55,000 startups. 35,000 of them are active, 300 plus active institutional investors, 520 accelerators and incubators. And out of the 10 Asia Pacific cities, India has 3 cities which are highly active in startups in terms of number of startups, ecosystem wise. So those are obviously Bangalore, Delhi, Pune, and Mumbai to an extent. And also 1,000 plus deals have happened in India in today's time, up to in 2021 itself. So those numbers are some really jarring numbers. And if I look at where the deals are happening, the biggest deal breaker industry is basically enterprise tech. That is the rare place where 18% of the deals have happened. Then in e-commerce is second one to 12%. Fintech is third one to 11%. And health tech to be 10%. So out of these, all the industry, 5 top industries constitute about 62% of the startup funding that have happened in 2023. And also in overall last 6-7 years time. In terms of Kerala, so let me give you some numbers of Kerala. Kerala has a very different kind of ecosystem over here, and Kerala ecosystem is a growing ecosystem. So here also enterprise tech is one of the biggest driver. Again, 23% of the deals have happened in enterprise tech sector. Second biggest is agri-tech, about 18%. Third is consumer services, about 13%, and edtech, 14%. To be very frank, sir, in last 2 days, I have met 4 guys who are in edtech sector. So I felt that Kerala is only edtech sector.
They are, of course, very good in education.
Yes. So see, what happens is all these things growing up. It is what we can say is the ecosystem has already been formed. And there are a lot of positives, okay, about this ecosystem. With these numbers cannot come like this if there is no ecosystem. Looking at amount of investors, no different kind of investors that we have today who are interested, and the new category of investors also being joining in, which is HNI, who believe that HNI would be a biggest investor in startup category. And HNIs are having, in India anyway, we have equity is the biggest one. So obviously we look at equity as a prime way of investing. And in startup, HNI are the biggest investors after private equity, venture capital. In fact, private equity were never interested in startups. If you go to them, they say, what is the profit and when will you give me exit? Now they don't talk about exits. They'll say, we figure out. So it's like a kind of a FOMO, which is gone behind this whole thing, that one guy is driving the other guy and other guy is driving the third guy. So it's like becoming an ecosystem where everybody wants to take a pie and be part of that ecosystem and be part of that. Also, I want to invest in at least 10 startups so that when my kid grows, he has some good investments. There'll be some Flipkarts and there'll be some Byju's in next 10 or 15 years where I make a startup investment. So that is the positivity which is getting into this, and that is where the whole startup ecosystem is established. Now, coming to a next slide. So this is just a number basically, which is showing you around $3.5 trillion is equity investment total in India, listed companies. This is very, very big. And the second thing is that $70 billion investment, which we look at funding, which from 2014 to 2020. And that is what the third is the startup combined market capitalization is around 300 billion. So 70 billion is the funding and 300 billion is the market cap of startup in India. So now we can imagine that no, we will catch up with equity listed public companies because startups are also now entering into a complete different zone altogether. Next slide, please. Now this slide is slightly different from a numerical slide. Here I am showing Sachin Tendulkar as a god of valuation and Mr. Damodaran as a god of valuation, god of cricket and god of valuation. Now, reason why I am showing here is that as a god, we know that God doesn't get wrong, right? They don't go wrong. They always are right. But here we have seen Sachin Tendulkar also makes mistakes and Mr. Damodaran also makes mistakes. We all follow him with his ideas and with his analysis of any company and the way he analyzes in deep. We all feel that we should go with him. And that is where I feel that no, we all believe we have been reading his books for so long time now. And everybody refers to him as a god of valuation. So next slide. Now, reason why I have put those slides, I'll just come to it now. See, now we are seeing here that Paytm, Zomato, and Tesla, these are the three companies he has analyzed, and he completely went wrong with these three companies. And what he, if you look at his videos on YouTube, you will find those videos. Such a detailed analysis of Paytm. He looked at Paytm in a completely different manner from starting from ground zero, looking at that how many how many smart mobile phones are being used in India. Starting from there with the evolving business models, what Paytm can do and what Paytm has already have with him. And based on that, he predicted the valuation rupees for Paytm was around 2190 rupees per share. Now it is 1594. 1564 when we actually did this whole analysis. So he completely went wrong in Paytm. When I looking at Zomato, he predicted Zomato is, actually he said Zomato is like a tomato. So we will just throw it out. And he said that Zomato cannot have a business model which can expand beyond a point, and it cannot have a valuation which it has. So when it came out of an IPO, he had given a price per share for IPO 41 rupees per share, and everybody else said 125 rupees per share, and it actually went to 125 rupees per share. Everybody said 100 rupees and it went to 125 rupees per share. So again, it's a price, it's the emotion, it's the market. You don't know exactly. Nobody looks at fundamentals. People look at what is coming next, and I want to be part of that. So one of the reason maybe paid for the Paytm would be that before it came on board and as an IPO, there were so many other IPOs, and maybe people may not have enough money to put in. Maybe that's the reason they didn't get so much of subscription, whereas Nykaa, if you see, the subscription was overwhelming. Similarly, Tesla these are the, on the left hand side that you see is basically his prediction of Tesla shares of $34 billion, whereas it was 32 billion, it went to $32 billion. Here, $84 billion, there was $103 billion. So every time the failure has expanded from Tesla point of view. And when you hear his video, you will actually see that what he's saying is logical, but there is no logic in price. So getting valuation right is, even God can fail. So who am I? That is what I can say. Next slide. So this slide is basically a transitionary slide of basically a Byju's. If you mind, I can step down, I can see it better below. So would you mind? Sorry. So basically what it says is, this slide says is that how Byju's have basically progressed over a period of time. And if you can see those bags of money, that is basically nothing but its valuation has grown over a period of time. Now, if you look at, when we look at 2019, it was around 5.7 billion. And from 2020 June, it has expanded to almost 18 billion to 2021, almost October. Now, obviously, pandemic has been, for some people, it has been excellent. It has changed the world. It's changed the way we look at things. So many new things have happened in everybody's life. We have started accepting certain things which were never even thought about. And for somebody, it has been very bad also. So coming to Byju's, the way he has got funding in last 1 year's time, the valuation is just expanded from 6 billion to 18 billion, almost 3x times with such a high size. Now, still people call it a startup because it's basically the K-12 model is still evolving for him. And you can see how many acquisitions they have done in last 1 year time, almost 3 acquisitions they have done in last 1 year's time. And they have utilized this money and enhanced the valuation again. Now, whether this valuation is right or wrong, I am not the one to judge over here, because there is nothing right or wrong over here. Whatever people believe and people are paying for, it is right. And if you also see over here, the first player and the top two, 3, 4, 5, the difference has increased so significantly, there is no matchup now. The first is 18 billion and the second, third, fourth are all in $3 and $4 billion valuation. Now, obviously there are certain reasons, but this much gap is too much actually. Therefore, how you are strategizing, how you are marketing yourself, how you are putting down your thoughts to people, how strategies you are evolving, again, how many investors you are getting, all these things are very, very critical to get these valuations. So again, the conclusion of this slide is nothing is right or wrong. Everything is right and everything can be wrong. So next slide, please. So this is again one more example of nothing right or wrong over here. If you see Tesla, if you see the graph over here, the graph that is showing over here, the spike, in one day, the market capitalization went up by $129 billion. And on the next, it actually went down by $140 billion. Now, valuation cannot go up and down just by the market vagaries, right? So how does this happen? It is all on emotion. One day, Tesla CEO says that I want to sell the shares, it goes down. One day they say, I want to buy the shares, it goes up. Now there is no fundamental reason for going up and down. So that is where I come to my next slide. Next slide. So what is the difference between price and value? People don't seldom understand what is the difference between price and value. We feel that price is equal to value and value is equal to price. But value is not equal to price. Price is something which we have already paid. It is a past tense. Value is the fundamental value of the company, driven by the fundamental factors and the story of a startup along with the financial numbers. So there is a vast difference between both of them. Now, price is also reactive to demand and supply of the stock, right? As we saw in Tesla's case, where it went up by 129 billion and went down by 140 billion. So that is exactly the price. Price can go up and down, although it can be also a past tense, what has been already been paid, right? So again, it is completely based on market momentum. Whereas value is more future driven, it is more fundamental, it is different from, maybe I can give you a valuation, which is say 100 rupees, $100. And somebody is willing to pay or are desperate to enter or have a FOMO, he can pay you $200 billion, $200 for example. But your actual fundamental value is still $100. So now the difference, that is difference between value and price. So we need to take care of these aspects when you actually go to investor, right? So my whole theme on this is basically how we are differentiating value and price. How do you make it right or wrong, whatever. Next slide. So, valuation, people say it's a science. Some people say it's an art, right? Valuation is not even science and not even art, because when it is science, you are looked by as an accountant. When you are saying art, you are looking like a investment banker or maybe like a marketer. So valuation has to be both put together, and that can make you more craft, because one has to also look at what is the market parameters, what is the demand on one side, and what exactly is the fundamentally the numbers of the its own company as well. So when you look at holistic approach, when you take a holistic approach, only then you can reach a particular level of judgmental call, and this takes time. Obviously, this takes experience. So as we earlier we used to call it as a scientific art or a science and art, nor science nor art. Now the new mantra is craft, because craft is something where you have to apply your mind, apply your imagination, and then basically you make a art or a science into a craft. So the merger of both is basically what one has to look at when you are looking at any valuation. So next slide. So I'm just doing one test over here. This is a brain, basically your brain, and left brain and right brain. Normally your left brain functions on numbers, on the linearity, on sequentialness. So you think sequentially from your left side. When it comes to on a right hand side, you are a more big picture thinker. You are a holistic, and you imagine a lot of fantasies come in play. Now, using a left brain or a right brain will never give you a valuation, because you are only looking at only 50% of the aspect. So story backed by numbers, that is the whole point when you look at a valuation of any startup, because startup valuations are not a traditional based valuation. Their story is just creeping out. It's not like, it's just starting, it's seeding basically. Whereas in the traditional businesses, we had a maturity as an angle where we had some comfort on the numbers. So we could look at that way. But here, story and numbers, both are important. Whereas some of the community who are investor community, some of them really go by the right side of the brain, because they want to invest, because there is a FOMO. And I don't want to miss my opportunity. So I'll think only by right angle, right brain, where I'll think, okay, this is the industry, this is the industry where I want to be. After 10 years, I will only try to find things which are in my favor. Whereas when I look at the left side, I'll think like an accountant. Okay, these numbers don't match. This is loss making. How growth is okay, but loss when I make profits ultimately. But if I start thinking like that also, I am being very conservative. One is a conservativeness and one is very aggressiveness. That is where you have to balance it out, and you have to find a mid path to really arrive at a valuation. So let me take one exercise. Next slide. Next slide. So just look at these colors, okay? Talk about, don't spell the name of the color, but only say which color it is. Can anyone spell it out? The first one is yellow. Will you say yellow or green? In the first brain.
Perhaps we should take some volunteers.
It's green. What the question is that you have to say the color and not the spell. Don't spell it. Just look at the color and say what color it is, and say it with a speed.
Any volunteers?
Anybody want to try? Please. No, you have thought about it now. Yes. So that is what it is about. Left brain and right brain is all about. So your imagination and your logic both have to be work in sync. Then only you will be able to work around it. And this is basically the theory given by Mr. Damodaran himself, that your left brain and right brain, what you see is more logical than what you imagine. So what you see is here is yellow and not green, or what you see is black and not yellow again. So that is where our mind has to think and then say, and maybe use your fundamentals and also use your narratives in the right manner. That is where you will be able to arrive at a right valuation. So answering a right question is exactly that. Next slide. So when I look at this slide, basically I summarize over here that why we were talking about left side of the brain and right side of the brain. And to arrive at a valuation, what do you need to do? So on the left side, I'm putting the numbers perspective. On the right side, I'm putting a narrative perspective, where basically all this put together, only then it will make a craft or basically a good valuation. I may not say right valuation, but the right word is fair valuation or a good valuation. And nothing is fair in this world. Fair is only theory. So you will always be in reality on the right or a left side. So you will never be in reality, but yeah, we are theoretical people, maybe half accountant, half storytellers. So where we have to be in is the good valuation. See, because I sign off on the valuation, I have to take care of myself also. So I focus on that, which is the good valuation, which I can justify my best. So this is a self-explanatory slide, but when you look at these both sides, we in normal thinking also, we have this kind of thought process, where we think left side and right side like that. And good thing only can come, which is in theory. In reality, we all are some-sided. There is no in between or a balanced side of us. It's always left and right. But if you do your analysis properly in a deep manner and with an experience coming around by reading on all the sides, only then you will be able to make a right decision. That is what we try to say here. Next slide. If you want me to stop anywhere or ask any question, please feel free to ask question. Yeah. Should I go to next earlier slide? Yeah, please go ahead. We want to make it more interactive. Otherwise, if you all sleep even after having the coffee, what's the point?
To those joining us online, please
Yeah.
type in your questions into
You are
the chat
navigating
box.
through a good session. Fantastic for that. Thank you. You are using the word in your slides of innovation, growth, price, value. Then comes the unquantifiable. Then one slide I saw something connected to the creativity. Creativity, when quantified on quality and quantity basis, then it is measurable. If it is measurable, capturing the knowledge economy as a catalyst, how do you support people who are playing with knowledge society or knowledge know-how in valuing the intangible assets? When I say, I'm coming to your area now. You are playing with numbers. Let us take a rectangle. One rectangle price, one vertex is price. Other vertex is value. Third vertex is innovation. The solution on the fourth vertex I need from you. Capturing the knowledge economy, which is the future. This Tesla's okay. They're all playing with intangible items. The future is intangible items like deep tech emerging technology, deep tech emerging.
I will come to that deep tech stuff because
Yeah.
I have a one case study.
Yeah, so
we will go
because
through
the
that.
government of India, our state minister was here yesterday. He was also long back talking on this knowledge society, everywhere the knowledge, but nobody has really, as you said, quantified how to value a company having the knowledge economy.
Sir, see, I'll tell you, valuation of a company is actually a very subjective thing, because when you are on a buy side, you will think like a buyer. When you are on the sell side, you will think like a seller. And there is no middle path because everybody wants to maximize, right? So I can connect the dots and tell my story as a seller. I can connect the dots. I can read. There is enough knowledge in the market which can give you certain perspectives which you can build out. And your brain is thinking in such a way that you will only think what you want. When you are a buyer, you want to get as low as price as possible. So your brain will function in such a way that you will try to collect all this information which is on the buy side, and similarly on the sell side. There is enough information available, what is right and what is wrong information to be considered. That is where the challenge comes, and that is where the experience comes. So again, if you are a startup founder and if you want to do a fundraise, obviously your thinking will be different. And every promoter is very emotional about its own company. They feel that everything is perfect in their company, although they know certain things are not, but still they will feel that everything is perfect. And they will build a narrative which is also in favor of their, and they will look at what is happening around the neighbor. And those all things will get you some certain things which will be very, in your favor. Not, you will never go and tell, okay, buy me cheap, right? You will never tell that. So it's information is available. It's an information age. Everybody is getting all information right. And everybody feels that whatever I read is right, or whatever is my view is right. But then there has to be a sanity which has to prevail. And there are no things which are, you can call as a sanity. There is sanity doesn't exist in reality. In startup world, it is just exploded right now. And $23 billion, 1,000+ deals in India up to October itself gives you a picture where what a FOMO makes you. Because if your neighbor is investing, you also want to invest. Now there is how you invest, how you think, again, that is about you.
Heck, I think we have about 10 minutes overall. I think
Sure, I'll take.
we'll have 10,
Sure.
10, 15 minutes for Q&A, right? Yeah.
So maybe get to next slide, please. Next slide. So those were a self-explanatory slides, so I don't want to spend time on that. But this is very critical slide in my view. And if you look at this slide, what it is showing is any life cycle of a business. Now, how the life cycle of business is there and what all questions you have to ask yourself. When you are looking at your own valuation, how do you ask questions to yourself? And if you are an investor, how do you ask questions to yourself? So basically, if you are seeing this, at the first stage, does the idea have a potential? What is the potential for this idea? Once you have the idea in place and you have progressed a bit, then comes a stage where, is there a business model? Is there a method to madness? And once you get there, will this business generate profit? Still, we are on a cash burn situation, but still one needs to think that, is there a situation where you will be able to generate profit? Unless you ask these hard questions to yourself, you will never make profits. You will always be in a cash burn situation. And the fourth stage is, can the business be scaled up? Okay, can this business have a scalability which can be larger, and you can evolve your business model into a different kind of a business model? The last will be, will management face the reality in a doomsday scenario? So during pandemic, the people who were not able to adopt to new things, new way of life, have gone in trouble. And people who were able to adopt, even if their businesses fell down, they were able to come out of it and they are flourishing. That is the reality. So these are the phases of life of any, and you have to ask right question at right time. Only then you will be able to understand this whole thing. Next slide.
Just a quick one. So I think cue cards have been circulated. So if you have any questions, please write and pass it on to the team so that we can coordinate. We'll have only 10 minutes for Q&A.
Next slide. So this is a case study. Again, I'll make it a very short case study on this, where we were actually, this is a real life case study. We have changed certain numbers and certain parameters. We were valuing a electric vehicle battery company who was actually following a subscription model. Okay, they will be giving battery on a subscription basis to you. So that was a model. They were a pre-revenue company. There was no revenue. They had certain contracts which were to be executed in future. Okay, and that was supposed to happen in maybe 1 year's time. Now there was no visibility and our client wanted to invest in this company. Now, the model, when I look at overall model, okay, so we asked some few questions to them. So how do you value pre-revenue company? That was a question pertinent to us, obviously. Then how do I compare the business model? So this was a very unique model in itself. There are not many companies who follow subscription basis, and EV is anyway a new age deep tech situation, right? It's not how, nobody knows how it is going to span out in future, how it will actually evolve ultimately. Then what could be the value driver in this deep tech company? What are the key value drivers in this company? Then how do you further factor the chances of failure? Now this chances of failure is very high, then chances of success over here, right? So I'll go to next slide, please. So company had certain orders in hand overall. Let me give you certain numbers also, which we have designed for this case study. Now this company's projections were given to us. It was starting to do a sales after 1 year for 20 crores. And then after 4 years, it was 1,500 crores. Profitability was 130% minus loss making in the first year and making profit in the fourth year of almost 30% plus on 1,500 crores, right? So basically what we are looking at is that company which has no revenue today is going to make losses in first year, and it is going to be next year. And after 4 years, after that, it will be like a 1,500 crore company. And it is into a subscription based model. There are hardly any companies which are into subscription based model. So then what we did is we looked at this comparable set, okay, where we saw that certain companies in the market, what they exactly are doing. So now we looked at various parameters that know what is the kind of a charging time it is required, what exactly, how many kilometers it is operative for the first charge, all those things, industry analysis, whatever we could find in public domain, we did that. And there were various batteries also. So there was one kind of battery, then was second kind of battery used in different vehicles. And based on that, we analyzed different companies. So first company, second company, and then if you get to next slide, please. So we actually try to find what is the key differentiator of this company. If you see the key differentiator, when I am looking at the highlighted portion, the charging time in hours and the battery life has been the key differentiator for this company and key value driver for this company. Now, based on this only, we understood that how to value this company. So we thought that R&D, exactly what kind of R&D these companies are doing. So we looked at something different, that how much percentage of value are there companies which are getting based on R&D multiple. So if you get to next slide, please. So if you see this slide, we saw this Quantum Scope, which is actual company, okay, not name change, all the data available in public domain. Now, this company also had 10 plus years. After research, we found this, that it's been 10 years and there is no revenue of this company. They're only doing R&D, but they did have a market cap in place. Now, based on that, we evaluated how can we compare this company with our company. This also had a slightly subscription based model. Okay. Now, the market is slightly different of this company. So it is not an Indian company. So obviously it has a different market altogether, but still we had to compare. There was enough data for us to look at it and conclude based on that. We actually also looked at what are the EV business, battery businesses getting overall, what are the deal multiples for them also overall basis. We also looked at what are the kind of funding, pre-revenue companies funding happening, and what is an average deal size. So all these things, then we did a lot of sensitivities around the DCF, what company had given to us. So based on all this analysis, can you go to next slide, please? Next slide. So this is basically, all the battery companies funding rounds that have happened in different times. So we looked at all of these data to really look at what kind of valuation should we give it to them. Next slide. Now, this is basically AICPA guidelines where what kind of discount rate is used for a pre-revenue company. Now, if you see the highlighted portion, it is ranged from 40 to 60%, depending on what situation you are in, what kind of things you are doing. So based on that, it is 40 to 60%. Now, it is very broad, right? It is obviously broad. Nobody knows where you fall exactly. Next slide.
We have 10 questions.
Okay.
So please save some time.
Yeah. So this is a sensitive slide. It's just blurred because it's an actual slide that we had made. So next slide, please. And see, finally, when we looked at all of these aspects, when I am summarizing it, see, we looked at the various range. the comparable EV by revenue multiple, comparable EV by R&D multiple. Then we looked at DCF and sensitivities. We also looked at VC rate of return, because 2 years back, this company also got funding. But that time also company was actually into a mode of coming up with a product. So now their product was already there. They already had a signed LOIs. So obviously valuation can be very different now. So based on that, we arrived at our overall range and we gave them a valuation. So it takes a lot of narrative. It takes a lot of number crunching analysis, and combination of that can give you somewhere valuation right. But unfortunately, this deal didn't happen. So the company was board members of the buyer were not really very convinced where should they fall in, and they were not ready to take a call. So this deal didn't happen. Thank you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you for the very interesting, very informative idea. We have actually about 10 questions. I don't think we'll be able to take all of them.
Yeah,
Given we have 4 minutes, we'll just
or
please,
you can
please be very brief.
Yeah.
So whichever questions we are not able to answer here, Mr. Mehak is going to be available. We can you can go ask him and network with him and definitely clarify some of your questions. So
Sure.
one question is, how do you value a mature, profitable business when they prepare for a digital transformation? If that is what is going to drive the value.
Mature.
It's a mature, profitable business. How do you value that?
Lovely.
They are on the
So
cusp of digital
it's much
transformation.
easier. It's less stress-free actually to value any matured business, because you know that the business is getting matured. So you use a cash flow-based approach and look at the multiples, which will give you corroboration value.
Question from Johnson from Social Mob. So the question is, for startups in initial days, especially on a premium model, how do you set valuation at early stage where cash flow is nil, but has a user base? So
Cash flow is nil.
nil. So no revenue, pre-revenue.
So see, the only way to value a startup with a pre-revenue company is you have to do a research and find most comparable company. Discounted cash flow approach may not give you really comfortable value or parameter or a matrix. First, you need to analyze the other comparable companies in the market or comparable deals in the market to see what kind of deals that have happened, what kind of journey they have gone through, what kind of funding rounds that have happened in those comparable companies or comparable transactions, whether it is publicly listed, not listed. You have to build a right story over there, and then only you can go to DCF.
We have a question from online audience, charter member Sunil Gupta. He asks, since a few years, thousands of startups have been valued in various categories. So there has been a lot of startups, a lot of domains have been identified. So do we have a better sense of valuation formula for, especially around multiples for a specific industry segment? So he's asking, is there a formula for industry segment that has now evolved?
Yeah. So there is no formula, but there are multiples which you can use. You can be use industry specific multiples also, or certain multiples very specific to a particular industry. As in this particular case study, we have used EV by R&D, which is not a normal multiple that you ever use. We actually invented that particular multiple to look at what is the value driver. So you look at your value driver of the business, and that can be also one of the way to look at as a valuation matrix. And there are various multiples like EV by EBITDA, EV by revenue, and those multiples you can obviously use. Subscriber base.
Now
again.
comes a trick question to you. So the valuation is sort of notional, and it's not an exact science. So the question is, does it go for multiple valuations and pick the best one?
Best one is a controversial thing, but what we can certainly look at is that, yes, you have to explore the options, and whichever sits in a right story, unless you will have to, when you look at this last slide table, that various ranges were coming out. Sometimes this actually table looks very weird, where some of them are completely on the right side, some of them are on the left side. And it is very difficult to take a call. where to marry them. So again, you have to do more research, sensitivities, that where the whole models are sensitive, or where this particularly, what is the reason a particular company is getting a higher multiple and other companies getting lower multiple. All this analysis, study, and those things you have to do to really arrive at the valuation. There is no right or wrong answer in that again.
One last question. So is there a correlation between the book value and the actual valuation?
No, in today's time, book value is nothing, because as we were talking about intangibles, I was hearing the first session and we were talking about intangibles. Again, you also brought a point of intangibles. So today's terms, book value has no meaning, only intangible has a meaning.
Thank you, Mehak. I think we are out of time. I think please reach out to him. I think it's better if you can reach out to him later. Yeah.
So as near as possible, you have to go. You may not find exact comparable. So see, there is right. Yeah. So what you have to see is that in India, see, nobody is innovator. We are all copycats in India, right? We all follow a particular trend. Even in the deep tech, there are certain things available in the overall world where we can see what kind of actually funding have happened, what kind of business model they are following. We are all following. In fact, there are not, there is a hardly you will find nowadays first mover. Everybody is doing, if one guy starts something, we will actually build products around it, and we will also start building out. So you will find some of the other, okay, where your product is comparable to other products also. But how you compare it, that is also very important. You have to be neutral. You cannot be taking good points. Okay, this guy has a good point, so I'll take these good points. This guy has this bad point, so these are not part of my company. So that is where you have to be objective.
Interesting. I think we'll have a flurry of questions. Thank you, Mr. Mehak,
Thank
for
you.
this very interesting.
Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed and you have learned something. If you have questions, please feel free to ask in the later. I am available here.